Hailey, we're sitting here talking on camera. Thank you for joining me. I wanted to start with the show you did in Dallas. So your parents and your brother was there. How exciting was that for you?
Yeah, so doing this show meant a lot for me because, Dallas is where my mom lives. And so it was, an easy show to be able to do. We didn't have to worry about hotel or anything. And my mom, has come to all of my shows. She's been to, I think, pretty much everyone except for my last one, which was Universe. She was planning on coming, but last minute little things that, kept her from being able to come. But my mom comes to all of my shows. My dad and my brother have been to two, but at all of the shows that I've done, the only one where I'd had my both of my parents and my brother there was my very first show when I was 16. So being able to have them both together in the same place with my brother, I was extremely excited just to have them all there. And then, it just meant so much being able to. I remember I came off stage, and they were just troopers. I mean, that was an incredibly long show day. We didn't get off stage until like finals, I think at like maybe 11:30. It was exhausting. They were hungry, they were tired, but they didn't complain at all. They were just, so excited for me and happy to be there. And I came off stage after finals, and they were all standing right there and they were like yay, woo. And I just looked at them and I just started to cry because I was just so overwhelmed with how lucky I am. Because in this sport, I've met plenty of people who their families, they don't get it, they don't really understand, God forbid they're not supportive of it. And that could not be further from the truth of what I'm just so grateful to have been able to have. My parents have been supportive of me in this sport since I started, when I was 16, which I feel like a lot of parents would not be supportive of that. I mean, they're not going to want their child, half naked on a stage being judged. But they've been there, every step of the way. And I say all the time, I would not be even close to where I am today if it wasn't for not just their support, but, they do everything for me. And, at the end of the day, with where I plan to go in this sport, that's always going to be my win. I have the greatest people in my circle and in my corner. And it makes me so excited that I know I'm going to have them through every step, through every part of this journey. And that's what matters. It's the people who are in your life that, make it worth it.
What a cool show for them to be at too, because this show was at the Dallas Convention Center,
Mhm.
and it was a relatively big expo. I think my camera caught you, I think, waving at them a couple of times as you were walking off stage. Did you see this video?
I did not see that video. I saw the individual clips that you'd put together from my individual routine, which I was so elated to even see. I mean, that meant so much to me. But I had one picture. I think I posted it on my story that my dad had gotten, and it was of my brother and my mom. They were sitting a couple rows ahead of them. And as I was walking off, like when I'm walking off the stage, I know there are a lot of people who, they take it really serious. And like, of course I do too, but like I'm walking off the stage, I'm going to wave to my family, I can see them. And there was a picture of me getting to wave to my brother, and my brother's like fist was up in the air, like just in triumph. It was and just being able to see that itself just encapsulated just the spirit of this sport to me, having them there, like it means everything to me. So having to even have that documented, I hold very close to my heart.
Sometimes siblings, they don't get along too well. What's the secret between you and your brother?
So when we grew up, we're 4 years apart. He's younger. When we were growing up, we fought.
So that would make him 19?
Yeah, he's 19. He'll be 20 in a few months. But yeah, we fought terribly as kids. I mean, which makes sense. You've got an older daughter, you got a younger son. Boys generally do not mature as fast at a rate, as girls do. And we loved it. Like he would love to just poke my buttons, and my mom would cry and she'd be like, I just want you two to get along, like, as parents do. And then as we got older, I would say probably at about maybe like a few 4 or 5 years ago, we really just became best friends. I mean, and luckily he was able to come and visit me just this past weekend. And every bit of time that he and I share together is just so cherished. And he started getting really into bodybuilding a couple years ago, not competing, but he loves to lift weights and he loves the sport. He's such a fan of the sport. So we went to the Olympia this last year in Vegas for his birthday, and he just had we both had such a great time, but it's been really cool to be able to see the sport that I love, more than anything, that's something that he has such a passion for too now. So he's not only a fan of the sport itself, but he's been my biggest fan and my biggest supporter. And, even having, I remember when at one point during prejudging, I was moved to the center at the beginning. And when I was moved to the center, I heard him screaming. He was like, "Let's go, Hailey!" Just like almost like imagine a football player like pounding their chest, like woo! And it was so special, being able to hear his voice and hearing him cheer me on and being able to see him, it makes me feel just so on cloud nine, because these are my people and they support me and love me so much, and I don't know what I did to deserve that.
I remember prejudging very well. It was clearly, in my opinion, between you and Alexandri Yoder. What do you think of the package that she brought?
So I actually became pretty good friends with Alex after that show. We talked a good bit backstage, incredibly sweet girl. And then we actually got to spend a lot of time together at Universe only like 2 weeks ago as well. I think that, the judging was totally fair. She just had better conditioning. And I think that she's already, has such a good foundation with glutes. Her balance is really good. Her conditioning is good. She came in, we actually placed about the same for Universe. She and I were actually in a different height class, but
The 11th place?
we both ended up in about 11th place or so for the Universe.
Which is pretty darn good because these classes are really big.
They were really big and they were very competitive. But yeah, I think that she's a great girl, and she has a lot of potential in this sport. And I think that the most important thing, no matter what, obviously we're all competitors, but the camaraderie and the sportsmanship is, the most important thing, because it's never about competing against the person who's next to you, because especially in bikini, it's incredibly subjective. You could have the same group of girls come in on one weekend and they'll be placing one way. You could have the same ones the next weekend and the placings will be different, because, things are just so, to the hair. And even after, I remember after finals, the first thing I did whenever we were coming in together for pictures, I looked over and I said, "Good job," because that's what it's about. You've got to support the people who are putting in the work too. And she's given me the exact same grace and support, and that's always what matters.
The transitioning in your posing. So when you're transitioning to the back pose, it's really a unique way you do it. If you look at everyone else posing in your class from Dallas, the way you transition to the back is there's a little bit of a pause and then you go to the back. How's your posing evolved over the years?
So when I first started posing, back in 2016, the posing was definitely different then than it is now. Bikini has evolved so much since I started. My posing was not great.
Everyone's bigger.
Yeah, everyone's bigger, and everything is just even I was watching videos, from bikini, even in 2019, and it's incredible, the evolution. I've always had a stage presence since, I was a kid. I grew up doing a lot of performing. I was in competitive cheer. I was doing a lot of singing and lots of theater and things like that from a very young age. So I always got very comfortable being on stage. And I think that was something that really attracted me to competing in the first place, because I was like, okay, well, I already love working out and I love being on stage and putting on a show. So that goes hand in hand. But as I've gotten more seasoned into the sport, posing is everything. It's so important. So I think definitely in this last prep, I was working harder and harder and harder every single day, hours and hours and hours in, to make this routine as good as I could. And that was with the help of my posing coach. Her name's Angeline Jansen. She's posing by A on Instagram. And I knew when I was going into this prep, I needed her. Her attention to detail is just exquisite and flawless. And she pushes me. She pushes me really hard. If I messed up, the second she'd be like, start it over right from the beginning. And just even little things that I used to do of like maybe fidgeting or moving my arm or maybe swinging too much, she nipped it right in the bud. So working with her has been such an incredible help to me. And yeah, in that transition pose, I knew that when I was starting my routine, that was something I'd wanted to do because it's a difficult move. It's a transition and then a step to the front to do like a glute side transition pose. And most girls just do what I used to do, whereas you're like doing your transition and then you just push your weight into that one leg, because it's a little bit easier. And I wanted to really nail that because I loved the way that so many pros that I looked up to, that was in their routine. And I'm like, that looks really good. So yeah, I knew kind of how I wanted that to look. And I just, over and over and over and over and over again. It's a painstaking process, but I've been really grateful. I've had a lot of people reach out from videos of my last couple shows, and I've gotten a lot of really good feedback on my posing and my presentation. So it makes me want to work harder and make it even better.
I love how you explain that. It's fantastic. Angeline, if you get to watch this, I'm glad that you're here. I didn't know you did some singing. I know there's literally a 5% chance you're going to say yes to this question, but can you sing for us a little bit at all?
Oh, I don't know about that. Not here. I know. I started when I was a kid. My mom had me in. I kind of did like child acting. I did a lot of little commercials and magazines and stuff. I was with an agency. And I got to do a lot of really cool stuff. I did a lot of different performances for a lot of different shows. I was in a contest that was it was the
what age are we talking about? 5, 6, 7, 8?
All the way up from, I started singing on a stage doing performances when I was 6. And then I think I continued that until I was maybe 13. At that point, I transitioned from music and acting into my sports. And that's what I'd wanted to do. But I came from a very musical background. My dad is a musician. He sings, he plays about every instrument under the sun. And yeah, it was really cool part of my life that I honestly never really get to talk about that much, just because like I'm so involved in bodybuilding now. But yeah, it gave me such a amazing foundation, really, as far as working really hard and like having a dream, like having some sort of passion and dream that gets you so excited. And my parents were so supportive of that as a kid. And I think that was really important for my self-confidence and my self-worth starting as a kid. And it's something that I feel like even now as an adult, those things as a child, they really build you kind of into who you become.
Can you sum up a little bit more about Universe? This is a show that you flew out to over there in New Jersey, I think.
Yes.
Maybe just talk about it a little bit more. You talked about Alexandria, you talked about 11th place, but anything else that you'll remember from this national show? It's not your first national show, but what do you think you can remember from this one?
So Universe was a great show for so many reasons. I knew going into, I did my first 2 national qualifiers. I had the Nevada State Championships, and then 2 weeks later was Dallas, and then 2 weeks later again was Universe. So I was right in there, just going from one to the next. And I knew after being done with Dallas, I knew that the feedback was just needing to become more conditioned. And, talking to my coach and kind of talking to some other athletes that I knew who were doing the show, I knew that doing Universe in my mind was a risk, because I knew that it was a lot easier. It would be a lot easier for me to say, okay, maybe I should just push out for, USA's, which is in 2 weeks from now, which would have given me, more time, whatever, to get even more conditioned. But I was like, you know what? No, I wasn't doing this show just for the off chance of, getting my pro card. I was doing it because I love it and because I wanted to get more experience and I wanted to get in front of the judges and, kind of see what they wanted to see more of for Vegas, and also just to push myself and to have fun. I think that's been a big mental shift for me this season, really shifting my priorities as to why I do what I do and what the purpose is going into each show. Each one I go into, I know the purpose is to improve and to get better, but I'm being a lot more present in enjoying the process and just going to a show because I love it, because I love to compete, because I love to meet other competitors, because like this is what I do. So that was my mindset going into the universe. I had a great time. It was the best that I'd ever looked. It was the best I'd ever felt. I felt like my posing was great. My stage presentation felt really good. I was just excited that I placed. When my first two national shows, I was like last call outs for my first two national shows. So even to be, in this national show and be like, okay, I'm there. And that was my feedback from Atilia and Tyler. I got the chance to talk to them after the show, was just getting more conditioned. But Tyler told me, he was like, you're right there. You are close. He was like, just get that conditioning and you'll be good. So that was a really, amazing step for me to feel like, my hard work is, starting to pay off and I'm starting to be recognized in the sport, which is just amazing. And it was just overall a great experience. Every single show I meet new people and make new connections, and just the whole experience of it is incredible. So I was really happy with the way that all went.
Talk about having fun. You've been in first call out twice this year. That had to be fun.
Yeah, no, it was really fun. My first two shows, the first for Nevada, I got third. And then for Dallas, I got second. And I will say, I have very high, expectations of myself and, very high standards of what I expect out of myself. And I will say, after the Nevada show, between prejudging and finals, I was pretty bummed because I knew that I didn't get nationally qualified. And that was, the goal of going and doing in that show.
By just one spot though, right?
Yes, definitely. And I mean, I was still really proud of the way that I looked and what we brought. And I knew what the feedback was. It was just to get more conditioned. And that's what we did. And that's what we've continued to do. But it still stings, as an athlete, we push ourselves so hard and we know what it is that we want and what we're working for. But I'm glad that those shows have gone the way that they have, because literally, I know people talk about it all the time, but it's so true. The losses really do shape you, and they shape your character, and they shape how you show up. And I have changed so much from the beginning of my prep to where I am now. I mean, I feel like I appreciate the sport so much more. Regardless of the placings, I still expect a lot out of myself every time I work. It's for the win, but I'm just present and I'm grateful. And I know that no matter what happens, I already know what my end result is going to be one day. I know that one day I'm going to be a pro. So all of the rest of it is just, it's the journey, it's just building your story. So I can't force what's going to happen or who's going to show up or how I'm going to place. So I just try to be as present and grateful and excited going into each and every one of my shows, and just happy about the fact that, I improve every show. And that's really all you can do. The rest is, it's out of your hands.
I think what's so cool about you is you're still pretty darn young. I believe 23.
Yes.
I'm just going to ask you this. I know the answer's no. I think that's what I'm trying to say. But I just want to hear your words so you can encourage me. I'm 38 years old, and really, I haven't really started lifting seriously until the last 6 months to a year. I mean, is it too late for me?
It's never too late for anybody. It is never too late for anybody, and not just in fitness.
I'm about to hit 40.
You've got to see these athletes, these masters athletes. They are unbelievable. Even my coach, Corinne, with Fit Body, she's masters, and she's going to the first national, not national, the first Masters Olympia that they're holding this year in Romania. And I have been so inspired by these masters athletes. They are just unbelievable. I mean, it's just crazy to me because not only they look unbelievable and they're competing, you know, against younger girls, but they have lives. Like, they have a lot of other shit going on. They've got kids, they've got real jobs, they have so many other things that they have to balance, and they show up and just dominate. It motivates me more than anything. And they're, you know, almost twice, you know, my age. So I think that there's just so much inspiration and motivation, especially in you know, older athletes in this sport.
Hailey, you talk about losses shaping you. What about NPC competitors? Maybe they're doing their first, second show. Any advice for people from maybe being like avoiding burnout too quickly? Of course, some people do a couple shows and it's not for them, but you see where I'm going with this burnout. How do you avoid that negative talk?
Yeah, so I experienced burnout myself, I would say about 2 years ago. I had just done the best I ever had. It was at the Clash in April of 2021. And I was on such a high, like, and I got second, but like, I felt incredible. It was the most conditioned I'd been. I was just astonished with how I looked and how I felt and how I was, just the response that I was getting from so many people in the industry, that I was like, I was overwhelmed. And I started very quickly to self-sabotage and start to burn out, because my why went from, this is my dream, this is what I love, this is my passion, and it transitioned to literally only operating out of pressure. And not even pressure that was actually existed. It was pressure that I was applying to myself, thinking, you know, externally, that all these people had all these expectations of me. And I was like, oh God, now I really have to do well because I have all these eyes on me. You know, I had people telling me that that year I would be able to turn pro. And it was too much externally. That is what led me to burnout in that year. And so what I would say going forward, and something that I've had to apply to myself for other competitors, is you have to remember your why and why you do it. If this becomes just, I mean, and it is a grind, it's work, it's hard work. Prepping is no joke. But if you are constantly in a state of, I have to do cardio, I have to do training, I have to diet, and you're just constantly in this state of negativity towards what you're doing, it's not going to last, because you're going to hate it. Your mind's going to be trained to thinking that you hate it. Your body's going to give out. That's a really quick and easy way to burn out. And so for me, I have to keep myself in such a, you know, positive mindset and just environment, in that I get to do this. I am so grateful that I even have the ability and the means and the financial means even to be able to do it. So I would say you have to be very central to your passion, your why. Why do you even want to do this in the first place? And, you know, and having fun. Like, this is supposed to be fun. And so when you get too much pressure on yourself, whether that's from external people, or you're comparing yourself to other people, or you're trying to rush the process, which you cannot do, you can't rush the process, you're going to burn out. So you have to be very intentional about the environment you're in, the way that you speak to yourself, you know, the way that you view and your perspective on your prep, because that's what's going to be sustainable. That's what's going to keep you going. And that's what's kept me going in this prep, is that I'm very excited for this next show. But it's just I don't have expectations. I do the best that I can in my prep. And, you know, if that's good enough for them at that time, then great. But if not, I'm still going to get there at some point, because I'm not going to stop. This is my dream. This is what I love to do. So it's a feeling of release, really, to just surrender to whatever the process is going to be, and just being along for the ride and just being excited to be there.
You're almost at the decade mark maybe a couple years away from weightlifting. Can you believe how far you've come?
I really can't. I mean, I started weightlifting. I got my first gym membership when I was 12. So technically, I've already passed that decade mark. But I started lifting really hard and seriously probably when I was 14. So I'm coming up on that time. But it's just, I mean, it's unbelievable. You know, I look at these pictures from when I first started, and I have a very sharp memory. I still remember exactly what it was like to be that girl, and, you know, to just be so excited about this new journey I was embarking on. I mean, I just wanted to soak up every bit of knowledge I could. Um, and when I think about it and I really like look at where I was, I mean, I'm overwhelmed with how grateful I am that I kept going, and not just kept going with bodybuilding, but the way that it shaped me as a person and as a woman, and how much I've grown from that time. I mean, I was just a little kid and I was so naive, and I did not have, you know, even an ounce of the confidence and self-worth that I have now. But I kept showing up, and that's what it's about. You know, I knew I had these really big dreams of one day turning pro and looking at these girls at the Olympia. And it's not that I believed in myself completely from the very beginning. I just kept holding on to that like little bit of hope, and it just kept pushing me forward and forward. And then I got here, you know, and it happens over that process before you even know it. But I'm so grateful that this sport has shaped me literally into the person that I am. And that I found it at such a young, impressionable age. I mean, there's so many people who are just getting started now. And I'm like, oh my God, I would be such a different person if I had just started bodybuilding now. It's unbelievable.
That's cool. Yeah, the IFBB pros, the IFBB Olympians, they're dense. They have an insane muscle maturity. Do you see your package on stage going in this direction more?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always say when people ask me how long I plan to compete, I just always say, you know, until it stops making me happy. I don't have a, you know, a time frame on it. And my life has changed so much, you know, even in the last couple of years, that I really don't plan that far ahead. I know, you know, what it is that I want and where I'm going. And I know that this sport really is home for me, and that I do have big expectations of myself. I hope one day I can compete on the Olympia stage. That's a huge dream of mine. But yeah, I don't have any intention of hanging it up at any time soon. I'm going to keep going until, you know, I feel satisfied with where I ended it, and then that's where that's where it'll be.
Well, you're going to get this question so many times from people you already have. I'm going to ask you about it. The whole law school thing. Please update us. How's this going?
It's going well. Yeah, right now I've just been, you know, it's summer, so I haven't been in my classes. I've just been working for a firm that I work for part-time during school, and then I work for full-time during the summer. But yeah, I mean, it's really starting to pick up with getting into your third year. I'm getting ready to take my MPRE, which is basically like, it's a smaller test that states require for you to take in conjunction with the bar. And it's a smaller test. It's not even close to the amount of studying or anything that you have to do for the bar. But I take that at, I think, the beginning of August. And so I pass that, and then I'll be, you know, set. And then I just have my last year of classes, and then it's going to be a beast studying for the bar exam. You know, I'll be taking it in almost a year from now, which is just unbelievable. But yeah, that's why this season was so important for me, because I know I'm not going to be, you know, getting on a stage most likely next year, just because my studies are going to, you know, come first. And I've done it. I've done both. I've prepped while I was in the middle of school, even just earlier this year. I think I was 4 weeks out from my first show when I was studying and finishing up my finals. And I was really proud of myself for, I mean, I still did really well in all my classes, and I was still able to show up 100% for prep, but I can't do that with the bar. It's just it's not even comparable. So, I mean, it just takes a lot of time management and just honesty with myself about the scheduling with shows and how to, you know, try to make it all work. But so far I've been able to make it work.
So we may not see you on stage till 2025.
It's possible. Yeah. I mean, I've thought about, depending on how this season goes, I could do a couple shows at the end of next year. But it just depends. I mean, I'm still going to be like, bodybuilding is still my life, no matter whether I'm getting on a stage or not. I still have, every intention of still, working with my coach and making those improvements and doing everything that I can. But we'll see, it just depends on how the rest of this year goes. And I could start a prep maybe after the bar, in a year from now, but I'm not putting any expectations or pressure on myself. I'm very strategic with what's going to be best for me and, what's going to be the best, end result for the work you're putting in. So, but it's possible that I probably won't be on stage until, it's 2025. Yeah.
The Olympia is in Orlando this year. You and your brother are going to go to this one?
Yes, we haven't gotten our tickets yet, but yeah, we've already talked about how we're planning on going, because it's not a far drive at all.
I'll end on this. See if I can say this the right way. There's a comment on YouTube. A subscriber put, Hailey is a smoke show, but really, and that's true. But the smoke show of you're just very intelligent. You speak so well. So thank you for being here. And it's a Sunday, and I know your time is so valuable. So yeah, I'll just say it again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated it.